So Marco Caniati from, I have to read from the script here now, from a professor from the Free University of Bolzano in Italy. And you will be talking about neuro disorder, actually a word that has popped up a few times already.
Yeah.
So very welcome.
Thank you very much. Many things to say, few times, so I will run. I do apologize for this. So I'm Marco Caniato, and I work for the Free University of Bolzano in Italy, and I will present the results of my research, which is past research and current research, and I hope future research. So I did like the rising hand before, so I will do it back again. So I will talk about people with special needs. Are there people here with special needs? Okay, I am. I am tall, so I need long trousers, long beds to sleep, and I need sunglasses, you know, going out of the sun. So I have special needs. Oh, I do not like very fat meal and so on. So I have special needs, but these are not special needs I will talk about here. So the special need I will talk about will be linked to neurodevelopmental, which is quite fighting words, neurocognitive disorder, as well as elderly people. So by the way, during this research, I realized that I will get in touch with the results of my research once in a lifetime, and I think everybody, since I hope everybody will get elderly. So I'm talking about a group of people, a bunch of people composed by very different kind of individuals with very different kinds of special need, and this is what is tricky about this. So I went through all these possible narrow disorders, and I do not focus on all of them because, as you can see, there are very, very, very too many, okay? Too many for me. I went through all these ones, but I don't have the time to go through all these ones right now. But again, I studied them a lot, and you see, many of them, really. I have 8 slides, and I can go further, but I will stop here. So the research questions are basically what is already known between on the topic of indoor environmental quality as regards people with neurodisorders. What is currently known about neurodivergent individuals' responses to the sensory stimuli of the indoor environment, and how the results can be related to them and to their responses. And I added one question more, which is personal. Are we so sure that we typically develop it? Because nobody raises his or her hand, so everybody now here, he's typically developed individual. Are you immune from the indoor stressors? Personally, I do not think so, but I won't go through this last one. So I surf the web on Google Scholar, PubMed, Scopus, Web of Science, public publication, whatever, I found it, and I combined all these narrow disorder keywords with all the other keywords, so indoor comfort, well-being, indoor environmental quality, acoustics, thermal, whatever. Was a very huge literature review. And what came out is that we have 11 neuro disorder which were studied so far. So these are the ones, but I want to go through this, which is quite impressive for me. So if somebody in the audience is quite quick to do a sum, this makes at about 30% of the population. So it's quite a lot, but it's not so. This should be interpreted, since unfortunately disorders that do not came along. Basically, they came with other disorders or other what are called comorbidities. So, for example, we can have anxiety disorder, and a comorbidity can be sleep-wake disorder or neurodevelopmental disorder, and so on. So the summary came down to at about 20%. So 20% of the population has one or more than one disorder. For me, it's quite a lot and worthy to be studied, but still, these are the only ones that are studied so far in relation with the indoor environment. Where they studied? Well, basically in the northern part of the world, but something happened also in Australia and New Zealand. Basically, the disorder most studies are ASD, so autistic individual, followed by dementia one, schizophrenia, bipolar, HDAD, so attention disorder, and so on. So in my research, I focused on the ASD individuals, so for autistic, and we thought what we can do. We started in 2020 in January, so then the pandemic came, and everything was hard, but was more hard to have to get in touch with fragile individuals, so it was really tough. But anyway, we went through it, so we started with the comfort. Let's study the comfort of autistic individuals. The comfort is composed by thermogrammetric acoustics, which was quite interesting today, visual and air quality. So in the past, these 4 domains were studied, but for typically developed individuals. So you can ask to me, you feel comfortable? No, I feel cold, I feel hot, this is noisy, I don't know. You cannot do this kind of research with fragile individual. Okay, you cannot put an individual in a laboratory, just raise the noise and see what happens. Just for ethics, and because you cannot expect the reaction, okay? So the topic for us, for designer, is how much? Reverberation time, 1, noise, 50 dB, I don't know. We saw before a bunch of parameters we can discuss further. Then to do the how much, we should split again into thermogrammetrical, acoustic, visual, and air quality, because we can't face the 4 of them all together. But we must change our way of research. We can't, again, ask them directly, are you feeling? So we have to deal with neurodivergent sensitivities, which is the topic I went through before. So what we've done with autistic sensitivities, we ask to proxies, so their parents, their caregivers. You can't ask to an autistic individual, how are you feeling? Mostly for 2 main reasons. He or she cannot stand a direct question. So it can be that they just run away or they misunderstand or whatever. If they respond to you, it's not so easy to rely on the response. So you have uncertainty in science and in research, but if you cannot rely on answer you are retrieving from questionnaire, it's quite tricky to have a robust and reliable result. So we ask to parents and caregivers, and we go through European research all along Europe using an online survey, and we also ask to people directly on a facility with extended care facility hosting them, and then we combine the 2 samples to validate our approach. I won't go through all the research, you will find it on the papers, but mostly what came out is what for me was kind of astonishing. So the 4 environmental condition was basically not a stress except for the acoustic one. So acoustics is mostly related to extreme stress, allergy, or extremely stressful, both for caregivers observing their patient and also for parents. So they agreed on this topic. And so we went through which kind of acoustics, okay? So we asked to, for example, acoustic environment, high noise, low noise, outside, rumble noise, dogs, whatever. And these slides can be interpreted in 2 ways. So here you can find the age influence, and here you can find the difference in the environment. So going from left-hand side to right-hand side, you can change the environment. So normal life stands for households, while control environment stands for care facilities, where you can control everything, and from the bottom to the top, the variance of the age. So if you're keen on statistics and you want to bore yourself with my papers, these are the ones, okay? So they are all open access, so you can find it online. So we went through why this happens, and we started with psychiatrists, citing the question before, so psychiatrists and psychologists, and we tried to merge engineering, architecture, and psychiatry, psychologist, medicine, what came up. And basically, you typically developing individuals, we use this approach to life. So if we learn something, I learned this is a monitor, for example, a display, so I can say, okay, this is a pre-acquired mental scheme, and I can apply it to this one, and also to that one, and also to those ones. They are just different, but I can see they are similar, so I can face my life using this pre-acquired mental scheme. So I can see the world as familiar for me. If I'm here for the first time in Sweden, but this monitor TV displays are mostly similar to the Italian one, so I'm familiar right now. So if a new one gets out, I will just produce into my head another pre-acquired mental scheme. Well, this is how I face my normal life, but if I have something I want to focus on, for example, now I'm walking just to distracting you, just to test your attention, but you are focusing, I hope, on my voice. So you are feeling the light, the temperature, everything, but you're focusing on something. You can, because you're using this pre-acquired mental scheme. Well, when you are on autism spectrum, you can have some comorbidities, and basically you can't have this pre-acquired mental scheme. So everything is at once. So yeah, let's have an example. We have the fika break before, and if you were talking about a topic with somebody else, you can focus on his or her voice. Everything else was on the background, just because everything else was a pre-acquired mental scheme. So your brain put it on the background, and you focus only on their voice. Well, when you are on the autism spectrum, this cannot happen. Basically, you focus on everything. They listen to everything at the same time, with the same level. So basically, when something new comes out, they can't manage it as we can. So basically, they are overwhelmed by the whole environment. So the fika break was not so comfortable for example, people on the autism spectrum. This is what we get. So we went through literature to try to solve the problem, not to solve it, but try to solve it. And we merge all the possible threshold we found, both for neurodivergent individuals, for hearing impairment, for neurocognitive, for all the possible disorder we found. And this was the result. So we can apply it for inclusive environment. This was the 3 parameters, just to help the other colleague out in South Africa, if you want to use them. There's just 3 of them, other than 1,000 you presented correctly. And basically, if you are an experienced acoustician, you will find that these thresholds are very familiar also for us, for typically developing individuals. So more inclusive environment means also well-being for us, not just for them. Now, what I'm doing right now, we want to study the effect on indoor stressors on other neurodivergencies. So basically how we can't use laboratory and rise temperature or rise noises. We just use living labs, and we say, okay, if they don't present stress, we hope they are in a comfortable situation. How to test it? We can ask to proxies, as we did before, but proxies may present biases for, a fact, it's my son, it's my daughter, it's kind of problem. So We are trying to bypass proxies, and it's quite new field of science, so just a proposal, and we are trying to set up the experiment in the next week. So this is the workflow. We modify the indoor environment, we pose questionnaire not to them but to the proxies, and then try to modify the environment, get back to the proxy respondent, modify the indoor environment, and so on and so forth. So here we have uncertainties. So what we are trying to do is go directly to them, to this neurodivergency. And we studied a lot with psychologists and psychiatrists, and we found out that there are attention tests that are validated, scientifically validated, for tons and tons of neurodivergencies. And this is really helpful for engineers like us. We don't basically are keen on psychology. So we can have attention test. Okay, thank you very much. We can have attention test, and we went through attention test, and we discovered that just one attention test, which name is TAP, test for the attention of person, something like that, which does not feature the learning process. So if I give you an attention test right now and say, okay, test your attention, you will just fill in the attention test, then I will modify the temperature or the noise, for example. I will raise the noise from 40 dB to 50 dB inside here, and I will give you back the attention test, then it's the same one. So you say, okay, I know how to do it. So I won't retrieve a good result. There's one attention test, which name is TAP, which bypass this learning feature and changes, but it's always validated. So we can use this attention test to modify the environment for the noise. Practically, we will start next week, okay, or the week after, I don't remember. Then we'll give them the attention test back, and so on and so forth for months, because you cannot give them one attention test at an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, so you can just have to, split them into maybe 1 week or 2 week or 3 week. And it's another topic, it's try to find the people interested in participating in these topics, which is quite difficult, because whether the parents are not keen on let their son participate, or several comorbidities came up, so they preventing them to participate to these activities. So it's quite difficult, but we will go through. We are working day by day with psychologists and psychiatrists, and what we are doing right now is basically find new things, find new ways of communicating with neurodivergent individuals, find new ways of studying, collecting, and especially interpreting the result, because we cannot rely on what was done before, because this is divergent, is diverse. So, conclusion, literature is lacks of dedicated studies. We saw it. Literature needs inclusive studies. We demonstrated how using proxies and just for ASD, we can have fruitful results. And we think also asking to proxies on our own other neurodivergency may produce these good results. And it was demonstrated that attention study can be used to bypass both comorbidity and proxy. Results, maybe, hopefully, the next EIAS I will present the results on these topics. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you so much. Lots of information.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I ran a lot. I'm really, really sorry for that.
It's perfect. Thank you so much.